Hello, my friends. Let's start with the latest. There are already initial results from the negotiations. Reports indicate that talks between the US and Russia have concluded after lasting more than 12 hours. Preliminary results that can be publicly discussed may be released throughout the day. However, the Ukrainian delegation will remain for another day. This means that today, after negotiations with the Russian side, the US may hold another round of talks with the Ukrainian delegation. International media are already reporting that Russia's demands in the negotiations were quite predictable. The Russian delegation at the negotiations with the US in Saudi Arabia is seeking full control over four Ukrainian regions: Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson, according to the Moscow Times, citing sources familiar with the Kremlin's logic. There is no mechanism in the Russian constitution for regions to leave Russia. We need the entire Zaporizhzhia and Kherson regions, a Kremlin linked official told the outlet. Another source, an active Russian government official, claims the Kremlin hopes Washington might pressure Kiev to fully withdraw its troops from the Russian occupied regions. Either Trump will influence them to leave or will be told enter prolonged negotiations while using military forces to establish control. This is the worst case scenario for us because crossing rivers is always a painful operation, he explained. According to him, as an alternative, Russia might attempt to seize part of another Ukrainian region, such as Dnipropetrovsk or Sumy, and then offer a trade for Kherson and Zaporizhzhia. As we can see, nothing has changed. Russia is sticking to its demands. Trump previously stated that all sides would have to make concessions. However, it seems only Ukraine is being pushed toward concessions and full surrender. For now, we await official statements. Friends, share your thoughts in the comments. Will Zelensky agree to full capitulation or will he fight for Ukrainian territory? Let me know what you think. It's important. Meanwhile, Russian media have reported that Russia has already authorized mortgage purchases in settlements within the Donetsk region that are still under Ukrainian control. In Russia, they have allowed mortgage purchases in cities where active combat is ongoing. The list even includes Avdiivka, Bakhmut, and Vuhledar. Additionally, Russia has launched a mortgage program for home buyers in Ukrainian cities it hasn't occupied, including Slovyansk, Kramatorsk, Liman, Dobropilya, Bilitske, Rodinske, and Bilozerske. This move signals Russia's confidence that it will eventually control these territories. Friends, all of this has started happening after Trump voiced support for Russia's position. If Trump has indeed promised Russia Ukrainian land, it will be a disaster. Trump also made a preliminary statement that the issue with Ukraine is being resolved. Donald Trump stated that territorial issues and possible demarcation lines in Ukraine are being discussed at the negotiations in Riyadh. He also noted that the parties are considering possible US control over nuclear power plants in Ukraine. Right now, we are talking about territory, we are talking about demarcation lines, we are talking about energy ownership of power plants. Some say that the power plant should belong to the United States because we have the expertise, he said. As we can see, it's far too early to talk about a full cessation of the war based on these negotiations as the fighting continues. Let's start with the situation at the border. More and more confirmations are emerging that Ukrainian forces are in the area of the village of Demidovka. And according to unofficial reports, they have already secured positions there. However, we know all too well that it wouldn't take much for the Russians to drop a few bombs on the village, completely destroying it along with the troops stationed there. So it's too early to speak of major successes, but the fact that the operation is ongoing is undeniable. Meanwhile, Russian forces continue to shell villages in the Sumy region as aggressively as ever. and the situation there remains unchanged. In the Kursk direction, Russian forces continue their counteroffensive. However, despite their high level of activity, they have been unable to advance. As a result, the front line has remained unchanged over the past 24 hours. In the Kharkiv direction, the situation is relatively calm. Shelling continues at a minimal level, and Russian troops haven't launched any new assaults. Meanwhile, in Vovchansk, the fighting hasn't stopped, even though the front line there remains stable. On geolocation maps based on Russian claims, it appears that they have recaptured some positions and are celebrating these successes. However, there have been no official confirmations of this yet, so we are waiting for further updates. Now let's move straight to the Pokrovsk direction, where the highest level of activity is observed along the entire front line. Russian forces are launching more than 60 assaults per day, attempting to advance on a broad front. Today, battles are ongoing near Novoalexandrivka, with continued Russian attempts to break through toward the mine near Udachne. They are also storming Kotlane, Lysivka, and Yelizavetivka while pushing through the fields near the highway. At the same time, intense shelling of the entire area continues without pause. However, despite this high level of activity, the front line remains stable and Ukrainian forces are holding the defense. Not only that, but they also appear to be launching counterattacks. Russian war correspondents have repeatedly stated that Ukraine is preparing for a major counteroffensive. Geolocation data shows that Ukrainian forces have begun advancing near Uspenivka and are moving toward the village of Solone. Meanwhile, FPV drones are being actively used to strike Russian positions. To be fair, Russian forces are also heavily using FPV drones in the Novosergiyevka area. The fight remains extremely intense, making rapid Ukrainian advances difficult. For now, progress is measured in the capture of individual positions. In the Kurakhove direction, Russian forces continue attacks in the area of Troitsk and are storming Konstantinopel and Rozliv. So far, the front line remains unchanged, and Ukrainian forces have even managed to reclaim lost some positions in Konstantinopel. As of now, Russia has made no gains in this area. In the area of Velikonovosilka, Russian forces are attempting to break through near Vesele with ongoing battles for Novosilka. They are also pushing from Novopil while maintaining heavy shelling. However, over the past 24 hours, no territorial changes have been recorded and all attacks have been repelled. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, shelling continues without active assaults. However, this doesn't mean that Russia's offensive has failed. They have managed to make significant advances, securing positions, and now reinforcing their troops for future attacks. Seeing that progress is possible in this sector, they are preparing for new assaults while actively using FPV drones. In the Kherson direction, no new attacks on the islands have been reported, and the front line remains unchanged over the past 24 hours. However, active FPV drone operations continue. And now moving on to the Donetsk direction, Russian forces are attempting to break through near Novospassky, continuing the assaults on Donetsk and advancing toward Delivka. While there have been no territorial changes in the past day, the Ukrainian forces report that the situation remains extremely difficult. Additionally, Russian attacks have resumed on Pantelemonivka along with shelling of Alexandropol. Russian troops are attempting to advance and straighten the front line here as well, but so far no new gains have been made. In the Chasiv Yar direction, the Russian offensive has failed. In recent days, they attempted to break through Ukrainian defenses along a wide front, but without success. Now they continue the assault in the central part of the city and are storming Orikhovo-Vasilivka. Despite conducting multiple attacks per day, they haven't achieved any significant progress. In the Siversk direction, Russian forces are still attacking Bilohorivka, Verkhnyokamensky, and attempting to advance from Ivanodarivka. Their assaults here appear to be aimed at tying down Ukrainian forces rather than achieving a decisive breakthrough. While their goal remains to push toward Siversk, the number of attacks is relatively low, and they haven't managed any major advances. Over the past 24 hours, the front line has remained unchanged. In the Lyman direction, Russian forces continue to actively storm Novomykhailivka, Lipove, Zelena Dolina, and Yampolivka. Russian journalists arrived near Kremina to film the supposed successes of the Russian army, but they came under fire and had to retreat to Kobzon. However, there have been no significant changes in the front line as of now. In the Borova direction, Russian forces are attacking Boguslavka, but no new assaults have been reported elsewhere, and the Ukrainian counteroffensive near Raihorodka has ceased. One village was liberated, but there have been no updates about further counterattacks. In the Kupiansk direction, fighting continues for Petropavlivka. Although Russian forces continue shelling the area, no new territorial gains have been made and activity remains minimal. It seems that the Russians lack sufficient reserves to maintain an active offensive here, so they're gathering more reserves and periodically launching large assaults. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.